What's going on, Bills Mafia? I'm Fernando Schmude. That's your leading the charge. And today I will share my thoughts about this Bills and Seahawks matchup this weekend, obviously, but also the main subject for today's leading the charge is a possible intriguing trade. Another one between the Bills and the Browns, a possibility that has been thrown around um, by PFF actually. I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it because looking at it at first, it really doesn't seem like a realistic idea when we look at the way the Bills play, when we look at the way the Bills use linebackers, and when we look at the cap situation and a lot of situations like that. You look at this trade possibility, and it might not be the most realistic one or the most interesting one for the Bills. But when we try to deep go deeper on this trade possibility, it starts to be intriguing. It starts to be interesting, and I will share my thoughts on why it can make sense for the Bills and why it might be a possibility for the Bills going forward before the deadline. Obviously, so um, I wanna tell you thank you for joining me live here today, Bills Mafia. Feel free to interact via the comment section, the chat, obviously. So thank you for your support to the Rumblings Network. A lot of great shows on the network, so support us. Always a shout out to all my partners from Buffalo Rumblings and Rumblings Network, Bruce Exclusive, Sarah Larson, um, Jay Spence the King, Sterling Furrow, Joe Boccacino, Jamie D, Big Newt, great shows out there in the network. So please like, subscribe to my own Fernando Schmude channel as well. Support me to continue to create content, not just for Bills Mafia in America, but all over the world, and especially also in Brazil, in Portuguese, where I have another version of the Leading the Charge every Sunday. So thank you for your support. Hit that like button. Also, download and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator, Spotify. We are on uh, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Megaphone. So you can listen to us everywhere. Please rate us there, like, subscribe, help us to keep growing and keep delivering great content to Bills Mafia. All right. So without further ado, let's dive deeper on this possibility, this trade possibility, and let me start giving you where did this possibility come from. So recently, Pro Football Focus had an article, and let me put it on the screen. 10 fair tales trade ahead of the 2024 NFL trade deadline. All right, and Bradley Locker, the writer, had those threw out those trade possibilities, and he threw out the possibility of the Bills trading for Browns linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Joke, right? Jock or GOK. I don't know how to pronounce it up there, but so that's a possibility he threw around. Let's be honest. Looking at it first, it's more or less like just like he described it, a fairy tale trade possibility. All right, and when we first look at it, it seems like a trade that doesn't make sense for the Bills because let's be honest, the national media still doesn't give the proper recognition to Terrell Bernard and how well he has played since he's become a Bills starter and a team captain and the leader of this defense. So it might make this writer, right, the lack of recognition for Terrell Bernard in the national media might be a real possibility. He has of Koromoa as a great possibility for the Bills as a middle linebacker, right? Um, but another possibility we we can really think of is about Matt Milano coming back to not make it a possibility for the Bills to trade for Vuzo Koromoa, not making any sense, right? We will have Matt Milano coming back later this season. He can be and he will be a good help for the Bills. So I think that's another good possibility for the Bills, right? To have Milano back, and I got another good reason to not trading for a linebacker. But when we dive deeper and try to understand why it would make sense for the Bills, I tend to go back in time, and I will go a very long time ago when McDermott still was a coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, all right, and he had Luke quickly as his middle linebacker. He had um, Thomas Davis as his weak side linebacker, and that Carolina Panthers still spent a first round pick on Shaq Thompson, right? He was a first round pick for the Panthers. Another linebacker, they made another huge investment on a linebacker position to have three linebackers that could stay on the field for most of the time, if not all the time, right? Because even more nowadays, we don't see many people trying to stay on base defense all the time, right? And it doesn't make much sense at all, especially when facing potent IAO attacks. Uh, but the Bills have been having trouble with heavier teams. We saw what happened against the Ravens and how they could line up bigger personnels with fullbacks, tight ends, even extra offensive linemen, and try to pound the rock over us, right? So we saw in the last playoff as well when the Kansas City Chiefs went with two tight ends, three tight ends formations, heavier formations, and could take advantage of our defense staying nickel base all the time, right? And even recently against the Ravens, they tried to play more base 4-3 defense. Last week against the Titans, for a moment, the Bills played base 4-3 defense, and right in the play they tried to play 4-3 defense with three linebackers. The Titans went after Balon Spector, run play action, threw it right over Balon Spector, testing him in coverage. So it's obvious when the Bills try to go three linebackers, they are exposed against the passing game, and guys like Spector. Even if you go three linebackers with Bernard, Milano, and Dorian Williams, even Dorian Williams can be a little bit targeted in those situations, right? So uh, if the Bills try to go after a guy like Ovuso Koromoa, he gives you an opportunity. He gives you a piece, all right, that can really become a staple for your base 4-3 defense, and you can start playing more base 4-3 defense. Let's be honest, the only teams the Bills really had trouble so far recently were the Chiefs last playoffs and the Ravens recently. Okay, we lost the game to the Texans. Man, we had all the chances in the world to win that game, right? The Texans made a lot of mistakes as well. We made a lot of mistakes. The Bills couldn't beat them, but the game was there to be taken, right? And I don't feel like the Bills were in big trouble against them and would be in big trouble against them by playoffs times, especially if you can make Houston travel and play outdoors in Buffalo, right? We people don't talk enough about that, but CJ Stroud, he's been in trouble. He's been in trouble playing outdoors. All his big games are indoors in domes, right? And then when he's challenged to play outdoors, he hasn't been good. So I'm totally confident if the Bills take on the Houston Texans in Buffalo by playoff times, I feel extremely confident the Bills can beat the Texans and go to the next round, right? Now, taking on the Ravens again, or even against the Chiefs, we know they've been in trouble passing the ball recently. Mahomes hasn't been good, but we can't really count on them not being good by playoff times. They still unbeaten so far, even struggling on offense or in the passing game. So um, they've already done this kind of approach to the Bills, trying to line up with heavier formations and trying to punish the Bills' nickel defense on the ground, right? The Ravens can do it even better. So how can you combat it, right? How can you compete against this kind of approach by the opposing offense? And the normal answer, the usual answer would be getting heavier on defense. Uh, trying to be more physical on defense, right? Getting bigger on that side of the ball. So adding another linebacker when we all are looking at the safety depth, or maybe getting an improvement over Hamlin at the safety position, or looking at the defensive line, and I wouldn't argue that yes, we can get better performances, especially from our interior defensive line. And now we just lost the rookie Carter, who's gonna have a surgery probably and might go to the injured reserve. Um, Awful news. It sucks. All right, but it's still next man up. The Bills can get better defensive tackle position. Maybe we expect Ed Oliver to play better. We expect Daquan Jones to play better, right? Um, we will have Von Miller back from suspension soon, and I'm not that worried about the edge position that much as the interior. But I can understand people targeting somebody in the defensive line and trying to get some reinforcements there. I can understand you wanting somebody better than Hamlin as safety, and that's why I'm totally in favor of playing more Bishop there, even with his rookie mistakes here and there. But give him some snaps. Maybe give him the Matt Milano rookie treatment of rotating him with Hamlin, like Milano rotated with Raymond Humber back in the day, right? I think it would make more sense for the Bills, and you would have the better athlete, the better or the player with more potential in Bishop ready for the playoffs, ready for playoffs time, right? So I'm not that comfortable with Hamlin out there. I know he knows the defense pretty well. I feel like the coaching staff trusts Hamlin way more than most of us, right? And he's hardly ever out of position. But I feel like he's kind of limited at the safety position, and I'd be more comfortable with Bishop getting those snaps and getting prepared for the future, and especially for playoff times. Just like last season when we made the choice of going Dodson instead of Dorian Williams and his rookie mistakes, right? And I feel like uh, we could have been better if Dorian was more prepared with more playing time during all the regular season when we needed AJ Klein to more most important game of the season. So I feel like we have Bishop to play at safety. We might not have that a lot of answers at the defensive tackle position, and it might be a nice place to target somebody, right? But this linebacker spot, it might be a place where we aren't looking at it because the Bills always play just two linebackers, and let's be honest, Terrell Bernard has played great. Dorian Williams has been impressive. He has gotten better. He's getting better each past week, and as the season goes, it seems he's gonna continue to develop and feel more comfortable in coverage. Um, and the possibility of Matt Milano coming back down the road. We gotta be honest, we don't know about Milano. He's been out for almost 2 years now, right? So we don't know what version of Matt Milano we'll get when he's back on the field finally. Um, his latest injury wasn't lower body injury, so he probably even feels more comfortable towards his leg, his previously injured leg right now than he felt when the season was about to start and he was on track to play, right? So mobility wise and being comfortable with his previous bad injury, he might feel better now than he felt before the season started. But it doesn't change the fact that he's been out for a long time, and we saw how long it took for to Von Miller, for example, to look like himself again. So there are no guarantees that Milano will be back in the lineup and will produce as the Matt Milano we all know, right? And I already said it here in the leading the charge, and I will repeat it again. But there are no guarantees with Milano. It might be a situation like Davis White, and it sucks to say that, right? Because I know you love Matt Milano, I love Matt Milano, everybody loves Matt Milano, right? But we have no guarantees, just like we didn't have with Davis White, and we can see, unfortunately, how his career has turned over recently, right? So With Milano, there are no guarantees. I can't expect for sure that Milano will be better than the version of Dorian Williams we've seen right now. So, no guarantees with him. And Bernard is injured again, right? He's out against Seattle. It doesn't seem anything extreme, anything serious. I really believe he'll be back in the lineup next week, and even he had some personal stuff that got him out of the preparation this week. So he might even be able to play if it were a playoff game next weekend. I believe he would play, right? So the Bills probably being cautious of him, and it's good to be cautious with Bernard because he's such an important piece. But again, we'll play another game without Terrell Bernard. So without Milano, without Bernard, having Ofusu Koromoa in the lineup would give you a level of comfort without those two players. A guy that would give you a nice replacement, not just for when they don't play. Obviously, he would be a great piece to play alongside Bernard. But if he can't play, you have a high level starter in his place, right? And if he can play, you have a high level starter. Koromoa can be an interchangeable piece with Bernard, just like Bernard was with Milano in the few games we could see them together. So that's something that I really think about, and it started to make more sense as I started to give it more of a thought about this kind of addition to the Bills defense. Again, without Bernard, without Milano, you have a high level Pro Bowl type, All Pro type linebacker in the lineup, right? To pair with Dorian Williams attacking machine. Without those guys, but when you have Bernard back, you can line up him alongside Ofusu Koromoa. You have interchangeable pieces at the linebacker spot. You can send on blitzes, helping your pass rush. You have two top-notch coverage linebackers. They will help you against the run as well. And you can play more three linebackers with Dorian, with Koromoa, and with Bernard. Being better against those heavier formations that the Ravens, especially, and the Chiefs also have used against the Bills. So it would add to you another dynamic in the chess match that has been those tactics between the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Bills, right? You would have an X factor. You would have another piece to a different answer for those kind of approaches by those teams. And you wouldn't be that exposed in the passing game with those guys in the lineup. If you have Koromoa, Bernard, and Milano playing well together as three linebackers, you're not that exposed playing zone coverages in the passing game, right? And obviously, clear passing downs or most of the passing downs, you have Taron Johnson in the lineup. You don't want to have your all-pro nickel corner out of the lineup for that longer, right? But again, we are missing Bernard for another game. Taron Johnson is coming back from a broken arm. And Ken Lewis, despite all his aggressivity and how aggressive he's being, how physical he's being, playing bigger than his size, still, you have Benford, you have Douglas, you have your linebackers, Bernard, good cover linebacker. So obviously that Ken Lewis would be targeted in those situations. He's the weak link, right? So you can protect Taron Johnson a little bit more, playing more for base 4-3 defense against those heavier formations. Avoid Taron Johnson to be in trouble dealing with those big guards, trying to play and needing to play weak side linebacker as he's done so many times for the Bills defense, right? And you can save him a little bit more, keep him fresh, avoid him making contact all the time with those big bodies and risking him getting injury more often, right? You can protect Terrell Bernard as well. So I feel like adding a linebacker like Kofuzo Koromoa would be really interesting. Again, I talked about Matt Milano and how we might have been watching the last few days of Matt Milano as a Buffalo Bills. It sucks to say that, but it's a possibility, right? And Milano is going to the wrong side of the 30s, but Ofuso Koromoa, that's a young guy, right? Owusu Koromoa is 26 now, 25, right? And he's on a 3-year contract, $37.5 million, right? 12.5 average per year. And his cap hit for 2024 is 3.8 million, right? It's not a cap hit that huge, that big, that Brandon Bean can't work on it and have it on the team. Obviously, the Browns would have to assume a dead cap of 20 million, $20.5 million, right? For next year, 4 million the cap hit for Owusu Koromoa in Buffalo if he comes. So that's a number that Brandon Bean can fit in that uh, Bills cap, right? And I feel like the Browns would ask for a lot because that's a young guy, that's an all pro type of guy, right? And obviously they wouldn't trade him for peanuts. So the Bills would need to make a huge investment on him, probably a third round pick, a second round pick, right? Third, not maybe not enough, right? They like Koromoa. Obviously, he's still young. He can be part of their future. I believe at minimum a second round pick for him. So it's gotta be considered. And but I feel like he's a chess match piece that can make the difference for the Bills, especially against those teams that really have been able to get us in trouble. The Bills probably don't need Koromoa to beat the Seahawks if Bernard could play, for example. All right, they probably don't need Koromoa for most of the games. He will be an improvement. He will be an upgrade over Dorian Williams, right? He will allow you to be even more patient with Matt Milano. When those guys are back, you will be able to line up them together and give you another possibility with the defense and another possibility with the schemes there. Now, um, is it really needed for most of the teams for the Bills defense? No, absolutely not. They can play their base Nico all the time and still play good defense, good enough to be able to beat most teams. All right, and make it to the playoffs and be extremely competitive there. Now, in a close game like we saw in the playoffs this year, sorry, but last season, right? A game that was decided in the details, and our defense couldn't stop the Chiefs to save their lives. Obviously, we weren't healthy enough. We were missing Bernard. We were missing a lot of important pieces. Douglas was out there, but was totally without any condition of being playing at high level. Still, the Bills didn't have an answer. They didn't have a plan B. Okay, every time the Chiefs could go bigger with their tight ends and try to cause matchup nightmares, they could do that. So you add another layer to the Bills defense. You add another dynamic. I add another option to McDermott and Babbage to work with in this chess match against the Ravens, against the Chiefs. And it might make the difference, right? Because you don't need to shut them down, but sometimes all you need is one extra possession, one stop to get past them, right? And I feel like having a guy like Owusu Koromoa really can be the difference for this Bills defense. So that's why I took this piece from Pro Football Focus, an article that might just be a guy that really doesn't know how the Bills play, the Bills defense, how they play nickel like 90% of the time, and how they like to play small on the defense side of the ball. And he just threw a name out there because he doesn't know Bernard yet, and Milano is out, right? And he has no clue about Dorian Williams. But as Bills fans, as Bill analysts, as people who's watched the Bills a lot, we know that those big formations, those heavier formations have brought trouble to the Bills, right? To the Bills defense. And we know that that's been the approach that the teams that have been successful against the Bills defense have gone. That's the direction they have gone, right? So I really feel it can be a good answer. Shout out to my friend Rafael Satamini from the group of collaborators of Fernando Schmude's channel. He was the first one even to point out this possibility of playing more 4-3 base defense with of Uzukoromoa joining the team, right? And I'm totally on the same page. Agree with Rafa. I don't feel like the Bills will feel confident enough to play like to change completely their ways and play 50%, 60% on base 4-3. I think it will be a minimum usage. It will be balanced, all right, just for those specific situations when you play heavier offenses. I still believe Taron Johnson will be out there most of the time. I still believe the Bills will play nickel base most of the time, right? But Ofuso Koromoa can add you a lot of options. Another interesting piece for Babbage, for McDermott to work with and use as they feel appropriate. Even with this situation where we are struggling in the interior, right? Because even on clear passing downs, you don't need to have 4 down defensive linemen. You can have one guy inside, 2 defensive ends, and maybe 3 linebackers, right? In a 3-3 package. So there are possibilities to use 3 linebackers in this build defense differently than they've done so far. It's on McDermott, on Babbage to get creative. More great pieces they have, more they will be able to deliver. So I feel like this guy can be, even for people who understands what the Bills try to do on defense and don't see right now the fit. I believe this guy can add a nice piece to this defense and another chess match piece again to deal especially with heavier formations like the Ravens and like the Chiefs have done against the Bills also in the playoffs. So um, let me check the comment section before I move on to to the Bills and Seahawks game and my thoughts about this game. Kelly McGinnis, sorry, Kelly, I'm not a native, so probably that's why you can't understand anything I'm saying. Sorry for that. Hi to Renato and Go Bills. Matt is out there. Shout out to Matt Byron. Thank you so much for joining, brother. Ravens and team similar physical are the only ones that make me truly nervous. That's it. That's what I really nervous about when we deal with those teams, right? Because when teams try to air it out against the Bills, our defense is prepared for that. We know that McDermott has been like this since he arrived in Buffalo. Like his defense is prepared to stop the passing game, right? The run game, we all have seen those 1 or 2 games, mainly one game a season where we can't stop the run to save our lives, right? We already saw it this season against the Ravens, and they obviously have really, really difficult. They were already difficult to stop on the ground with just Lamar and Gus Edwards as the running back, right? But now with Henry, man, it's the nightmare matchup for the Bills in the way the Bills defense is constructed, right? So to have another linebacker where you can feel like, oh, I'm comfortable with a 4-3 defense and 3 linebackers who can stop the run but can also cover, might be a good answer for teams like that. I'm totally with Matt here. Hi to Marcel as well. A shout out to Marcel here. I'd like those reinforced inside defensive line. Oliver has been having problems with injuries, hasn't performed well. Jones already near the end of his career. Yeah, defensive tackle, obviously, and now with Carter injured, man, it might be a place they look at it, right? Um, Johnson has played well, and but he's had fewer snaps than the other guys. We'll see if better with more snaps he can still outclassing the other guys. I'm not sure about that. We'll need to see, but yeah, defensive tackle might be the place to go. But imagine Dexter Lawrence would be awesome, but he's unrealistic. Like there's no way the Bills can fit in his contract, especially, and the Giants would ask for the world to trade Dexter Lawrence. Obviously, that's a name that, man, if I can, I believe if I could pick a player from any roster, any defense in the league to add to this Bills defense now, I know everybody would love to have Myles Garrett, and he's awesome, or another great pass rusher. But I'm happy with Vaughn this season, and as soon as he's back, I think we'll be fine. Greg Rousseau has been good. Epineza has shown flashes. Dwayne Smoot has been one of the biggest surprises, in my opinion, this year. He's played really well inside and outside. He's played both for the Bills, sliding inside on clear passing down sometimes and playing the Ed Oliver role. But if I could pick one player, man, probably Dexter Lawrence is my choice for this defense because the need at the interior defensive line and how awesome of an addition he would be, stopping the run, dealing with the pass as well, being a guy to take on extra blockers and free or pass rushers. So Lawrence probably the dream acquisition for this Bills defense, but totally unrealistic, I believe, right? So, Bills Mafia, hit that like button, subscribe to Buffalo, to Rumblings Network, and also check Buffalo Rumblings website for sure. My latest text about the risers and fallers ahead of this matchup against the Seahawks is up there already. So check it out. And about this Seahawks game, I really believe it's going to be a tough matchup. I like this Seahawks team. The good news are that maybe DK Metcalf doesn't play, and if he plays, he's probably limited. Those are good news. Obviously, DK is a freak, athletically speaking, right? And with the Seahawks without DK Metcalf, it's good news for the Bills. Still, they have Tyler Lockett. They still have Smith in Jigba, sorry. So they have some targets for Geno Smith. Geno Smith has been pretty good recently. He's been a good quarterback since going to Seattle and getting the opportunity to start and take over from Russell Wilson. And so I believe they have a great run game with Kenneth Walker the third. Their offensive line is decent enough to play well against the Bills, especially when they can establish the run game. So they have a good offense, and I feel like they have the personnel to try to do this thing that Matt here in the chat talked about. Try to impose the run game, try to go bigger, especially without DK Metcalf. You can add a tight end there. You can try to go bigger inside and try to pound the rock with Kent Walker, establish that run game, open play action from Smith and Jigba and especially for Locker deep. So they have an offense that can give us some trouble defensively, especially without Terrell Bernard in the lineup. It makes me nervous. Terrell Bernard has been awesome, not just um, not just in coverage, but also positioning everybody, communication, always around the ball, making plays. When there is a fumble, he's out there to pick it up. He's forcing fumbles. He's creating turnovers, intercepting passes. So he's everywhere, and the combination with Dorian Williams, sorry, and Terrell Bernard, I feel like they complement each other, right? They aren't that interchangeable as Bernard and Milano, but they complement each other, kind of like Terrell Edmonds and Milano did in the past. With Dorian being more that tackler, that sure tackler guy, tackling machine, going all over ball carriers, and Bernard being able to be the most um, Swiss knife type of linebacker, doing a little bit of everything, playing a little bit more free than Dorian Williams. So without Bernard in the lineup, I don't feel like Spector complements uh, Williams the same way Bernard does, right? As much as Spector has tried to play at his best and has done a good job filling him, it's not the same. The Bills will have a downgrade at linebacker spot, and man, if the Seahawks can run the ball, that play action will be tough. So that's worrisome with the Seahawks offense, right? And and on the other side of the ball, tough defensive line. They have the rookie from Texas, Byron Murphy, the second. Great player. He plays alongside Jaron Reed, former second round pick, a big guy, physical guy. So they have Leonard Williams inside as well. They play a base 3-4 defense. So Leonard Williams, one of my favorite inside defensive linemen in the league, former Jet, former Giant, right? Former first round pick as well. Jonathan Hankins coming from the bench. So they have depth. They have great big men inside to stop the Bills runs inside, and worrisome, right? They have uh, Ernest Jones joining this week, the former Titans linebacker, just played against the Bills. Physical middle linebacker who will be paired with Tyrell Dodson, former Bill. Um, Ernest Jones should have a lot of information to help the Seahawks to prepare what he believed worked against the Bills, what he believed didn't work against the Bills just a week ago. So it's great for the Seahawks to have him playing his first game as a Seahawk exactly against the same opponent he just played against. So another help for the defense. Tyrell Dodson, another guy that knows the Bills a lot, very, very well, right? So I feel like they have a good defense to cause some trouble for the Bills offense as well. They have some trouble in the secondary. The corners, Trey Brown and especially Tariq Woolen, they are questionable. Haven't practiced all week. Have been limited today or yesterday, I believe. So not sure about them participating or playing this game. And if they can't go, that would be huge for the Bills because those would be some matchups to take advantage of with Amari Cooper as a Bill for one more week, more comfortable in the lineup now, knowing a little bit better the offense, playing a little bit more comfortable with the playbooks. Then Keon Coleman dealing with a lesser corner, a backup corner, Shakir inside, Kincaid. I finally feel like the Bills have a nice group of mismatches, right? Available for Josh in the passing game. And this game, just like it was against the Titans, it might be a game where the Bills can't establish the run game early and pass just out of good position after running the ball well. It might be a game where the Bills will need to pass the ball to open the run game, right? Because they are big up front, they are physical up front, they are tough to run against. But this Seahawks defense has had trouble against play action, as Anthony Prohaska from Cover One, and they had Mina Kimes recently. A shout out to Anthony, big time friend, always here in the lead in the charge as well. And and as he mentioned with Mina Kimes yesterday, this Seahawks defense has had a lot of trouble against play action. The Bills have been one of the best teams using play action, but one of the teams that used it the least, right? So the Bills might be able to use more play action against the Seahawks and maybe get it going early so it can open a little bit more the boxes so the Bills can try to run the ball inside. It won't be easy. There is the travel, obviously, all across the country, but I believe the Bills are in position to beat the Seahawks, especially if those corners can play and they are in position to go there, steal that game there in Seattle, and come back with another win. That's my expectation for this game. I hope it happens. I hope Allen can have another big game in the passing game. I hope we can see more from Cooper and this new passing attack, right? Brady can dial up a little more in the passing game with short, intermediate areas instead of just running, and then trying to pass. So that's the key for this game, in my opinion. And I'm still confident the Bills can get a dub there and come back with this another win and even improve that lead in the division, right? So, Bills Mafia, that's it for today. I appreciate you taking your time joining me today. Just like Matt said here, be sure to check my latest article at buffalorumblings.com, right? And Marcel asking about updates on Metcalf so far. They everybody is kind of like he won't play, but he can surprise people and play, right? That's the latest news. There is a possibility he plays. Some people betting he will be able to play, but not sure. Not sure. Nobody's sure right now about if he plays or not. So we'll need to wait and see. What we know for sure is Bernard is already out. Um, and Carter, Dwayne Carter, or rookie defensive tackle, is out as well and might go to injury reserve because we will need a surgery in his wrist. Right, it's very very unfortunate. He was getting better each week, playing well inside. our inside defensive line has had some trouble, and without Carter, it gets worse. So hopefully somebody can step up, and the Bills, especially our pair of starters, Daquan Jones and especially Ed Oliver, they can play better than that. So I hope they can start it against the Seahawks. It will be important, and the Bills can get that done. Hit that like button, subscribe to Rumblings Network, support us. I really appreciate your taking your time joining me today. I'll be back on Sunday in Portuguese with the Leading the Charge post game show right after the Bills and Seahawks game. So you are all invited to participate. Thank you so much. See you around and go Bills.